Most of you have heard the horrific and offensive things my opponent has said. We're all familiar of cantaloupe calves and subgroups, and people say, what about that horrible thing he said? And I said, which one? Because there's just so many of them. But what only some of you know is that he is actually the least effective member of Congress. Inside Gov ranked him dead last, dead last. He has cashed $2.5 million in paychecks and not passed a single bill out of subcommittee. But what the majority of people don't realize is that we should actually be very thankful that he's ineffective. Because if he were actually an effective legislator, his positions and the things that he stands for would have hurt Iowans. Just recently, when we had the flooding in eastern Iowa, he came and looked like he was sympathetic and had his picture taken with Grassley. But he failed to mention to people that he voted to increase the interest rates on disaster loans and decrease supports for flood insurance. That doesn't exactly sound like very supportive of the people that were facing those catastrophes. My opponent tried to shut the door in the face of young students when he voted to increase interest rates on student loans and decrease funding for Pell Grants. I'm a single mom. My oldest son went to MIT and graduated in aerospace engineering. My daughter did her undergrad at Creighton and now is a third-year medical student at the University of Iowa. She wants to be an OBGYN, and she'd really like to work for Planned Parenthood. My youngest son is majoring in geology. As Herman mentioned, I'm a long-term care ombudsman. I make a big difference, but I don't make a big paycheck, and certainly not enough to be able to afford to send my kids to the colleges that they went to. They worked very hard in high school, they got good grades, they're determined, and there are not very many students in this entire state who can actually afford, and their parents can't afford, to pay for their college. And I deeply believe that no student who has the drive, determination, and the ability to succeed should have the door to their future shut in their face. And I understand that student loans, thank you. So once they get out of school, what do they have? They have a degree that they can hopefully get a job with, but they also have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in student loan debt. So what I am proposing is an expansion of the AmeriCorps Vista volunteer program. And what my program would do, it's called iGive, generating investment through volunteer engagement. It would allow people, and even parents who have Parent Plus loans, I have Parent Plus loans. It would allow us to volunteer in our communities 4 hours a week in exchange for having their interest and their payments deferred. And at the end of the year, they can turn in their hours and have a portion of their student loans forgiven. And what actually made me think about this was I was working with an older lady who was in one of my nursing homes. She had fallen down her basement steps and thought she was just going to go in for rehab, but she ended up having to stay there. She was close to 90. I said, what were you doing going down your basement steps? She said, I had to do my laundry. She was getting Medicaid waiver through the elderly waiver, which provides up to $1,300 a month in supports. She fell, broke a hip, had to go to the nursing home. Now it's costing us $8,000 a month in Medicaid dollars. Had we had this program and had a young and not even so young person helping her out in her home, she would have been able to stay in her home, and it would have saved us a lot of money. My opponent would like to do away with the EPA because he thinks water quality and the problems that we're facing, it's all a myth. There's no climate change. Don't look here. Don't look at the flooding and the horrific storms that we're having. It's all a myth. I understand that's not true. I've been to several different water quality panels. I've, Bill Stowe and agronomists and farmers and talked to them about the water quality issue. As you probably know, 3 of the counties in my district are being sued by the Des Moines Water Works. So I think what we need to do is propose innovative solutions for water quality. And one of them, somebody has nicknamed my hippie solution, which, okay, I like that hippie, that's fine. What I am proposing, it's legal federally, and I really can't do much of it as a congressperson, but I'm proposing that Iowans push your legislators to make the growing of industrial hemp allowable and legal in Iowa. I've done a lot of research on this, And most people, when they see it, if they're not really familiar with it, they're like, pot? What? And my dad, I had brunch with him, he goes like, well, I bet all the young people like that. I'm like, Dad, it's not the same thing as pot. And so what it does is the way the root systems are with industrial hemp, it helps to mitigate the nitrates and it also helps to stop soil erosion. In addition, you can make paper out of it, stopping the destruction of slow growth trees. You can make fabric. Iowa Pork Producers has even sponsored the Iowa Hemp Association because they know the protein content in it is good for pigs. So what I want you to do is lobby your legislators in Iowa and tell them it's time that we do this. And when I was at the water quality panel a couple weeks ago here at Ames, I asked the farmer who was on the panel what he thought of it. He loved it. He said that it would give him an additional thing to rotate in his crops. Instead of corn, beans, you know the drill. We can put hemp in there. An interesting fun fact, if you grow industrial hemp 3 years in a row, you can actually go organic sooner than if you had just done corn and beans. So I think this is something that we really need to work on. My opponent doesn't care about seniors. He voted to voucherize Medicare and privatize Social Security. As someone who works with seniors in a very, very rural part of the state, I know that there are a vast majority of people whose Social Security is their only retirement income. They don't have pensions. They don't have 401ks. And he's threatening their stability. So in addition to safeguarding Social Security from privatization, I am proposing that we expand Medicare to cover nursing homes and assisted livings because people are going broke. In the last 2 years, I had 4 families I worked with who had to sell off pieces of their family farm. 2 of them were century farms. They've been in the family for over 100 years. 100 years. And they were having to sell it off because the nursing home was $8,000 a month. Well, in 2037, the Administration on Aging estimates that a nursing home in Iowa, and we're cheap, just under $20,000 a month. So all of you sitting out there, you have to go to a nursing home, how are you going to pay for it? So inevitably, when I talk about expanding Medicare, people say, how are you going to pay for that? We already are. It's called Medicaid. So in the current system, once you get rid of everything you own, everything, you get down to only $2,000. You could have $2,000 in assets. Then you go on Medicaid. That's 100% taxpayer dollars. Wouldn't it make a lot more sense for each of us to start paying in a little bit more in our paychecks so that our neighbors and our friends and our parents and our grandparents and eventually us, we won't have to worry about getting the care that we need? Because I deeply believe that no Iowan and no American should be forced into poverty just to get the care that they need when they're old. It's just wrong. And that is why my opponent, again, thank God he is ineffective. Because had he been effective, we all would have been hurting. I've put about 45,000 miles on my car now. I've been saying 40. I'm like, oh, I better adjust that up because I've had a lot of driving in the last couple weeks. And I've had a lot of fun talking to people. Haven't had a lot of free time because I'm still working full-time in addition to campaigning. But in August, I did take a little bit of time for myself and I was inducted into the Daughters of the American Revolution. I have 2 5-time great-grandfathers that fought the tyranny of an unjust monarch. And in a lot of ways, their battle is similar to mine. They were undermanned, underfunded, and nobody thought they could win. But we're working hard out there. And I know you guys are too. I come down to the field office and just drop in every now and then, bring food occasionally, just come and say hi. Because these guys are working their hearts out. They're working their hearts out, and I know you are too. And I'm looking forward to my Victory Night celebration, which is going to be here in Ames at the Gateway. It's not an election night. Watch, it is a victory celebration. And so, on November 8th, we're going to show the rest of the world that this descendant of real Tea Party patriots can dethrone yet another king. Thank you.